You are carrying too much baggage on your back because you think that you're responsible for so many things, and you are not. And we're going to talk about 5 things that you are not responsible for right this second, because the moment that you get clarity on it, it might feel awkward to you. I'm not going to lie to you, because for so long you've tried keeping the peace, which is number 1. Okay. You do not have to accept things and do things to keep the peace. All right. So let's say somebody, say it's a mom, let's say it's a friend, coworker, I don't care who it is, and says, hey, can you do, and I don't mean always make it about you and never do anything, but let's say they want you to talk to somebody. Hey, can you just like make up, right? And you're like, I'm good. I'm not angry with them. I don't have a relationship with them. But then you think, oh God, okay, fine. I'll do it to keep the peace. Babe, you don't have to do that, because keeping the peace for them is creating 0 peace for yourself. Okay. And you have to get clear in that. You don't have any peace if you're keeping the peace for them. And you'll find that you're going to sacrifice a lot of things, and you think that you're responsible for keeping the peace. This is also like the fear of conflict, right? You don't like conflict. You're like, I don't want to deal with conflict, because not dealing with conflict is going to give you the opportunity to keep peace. But again, you're imprisoning yourself in this little place of like, oh, okay, wow, this sucks. This sucks and I'm uncomfortable, but these people are happy. You've got to understand that putting yourself as that priority, which is number 2, and we'll get to that in a minute, is mandatory. You've got to stop putting the children and the family and the job before you. This does not make you selfish. This means, we might as well go into number 2 now. We'll put those 2 together, which is don't apologize, and you're not responsible for somebody else's emotions and feelings about you putting yourself as a priority. When people do not know how to put themselves as a priority and they don't do it themselves, or they're like, oh my gosh, this throws me into dissonance, they're going to judge you. They're going to say that you're selfish. They're going to say you're self-absorbed because they're not doing it. If you are not your priority, you am hurt. No, you've heard this before. You can't pour from an empty cup. It's true. To put yourself as a priority means your self-care is important. Your boundaries are important. Your time for yourself is important. In turn, you're teaching these people that you keep sacrificing yourself for. You're teaching them that it is perfectly fine and almost expected of yourself to put yourself as a priority. That's how you build confidence. So the more you think, well, I'm just going to keep giving and giving and giving, you're not teaching them that it's okay to put themselves as a priority, especially when it comes to children. So sure, love your family, be there for your family, but you've got to be there for yourself first. And people are just not going to vibe with it. They are just not going to like it. And you're going to have to accept that. If you in turn want to be confident and whole within yourself, you've got to remember that. And so you don't have to apologize, and you're not responsible for those things. Okay, you're not responsible for keeping the peace. You are not. I'm not asking you to go and create conflict on purpose, but it will create conflict. People are not going to like it. So wrap your head around that now. They don't like that you don't keep the peace. They're going to call you difficult. You've got to stop worrying about them. Stop worrying about the words that are coming out of their mouth when they're trying to manipulate the situation. Because when the moment you stop keeping the peace, the manipulation gun is going to come out. Okay? And they're going to just start shooting that manipulation everywhere to get you to do what it is that they want you to do, by trying to demean and belittle and make you feel some kind of way. That's their intentions. Stop feeding it. So again, putting yourself as a priority is not just a luxury. It is mandatory for you to be the best version of yourself. In turn, you can give the best version of yourself to other people within reason. That's number 3. You are not responsible for how people see your boundaries and how they feel about your boundaries. You are not responsible for their feelings with your boundaries. Okay? And that's important and imperative that you get that. Because again, putting yourself as a priority is also establishing boundaries. And remember, a boundary must carry a consequence. So to tell somebody you don't like something or not to do it is not a boundary. It's if this, then this, right? And so when people hear a consequence and you hold the consequence, see, that's the secret. You got to hold the consequence. You don't remind them of it. Again, they may have been used to you not having boundaries. Okay. If you don't have boundaries in the past and now suddenly you pop up boundaries, they're going to be like, I don't like this. This makes me really uncomfortable. Okay. And so they're going to try various things to try to, again, manipulation, manipulation, manipulation. All of these things that put into play is not you manipulating. People are going to pull out manipulation. And a lot of times they're not sitting in a corner going, I'm going to manipulate the situation. They're just uncomfortable. So they're trying to do anything that they can do to get you back into the realm of what it is that they had. So it's not always intentional manipulation. Okay. But it's manipulation nonetheless. And your boundaries are for you. And you got to stop trying to make them individual. This is my boundary for mom. This is my boundary for no. You're not creating boundaries for any of these people. So first and foremost, you have to know what your boundaries are and why you have them. And they can't be made out of emotion. You don't make a boundary because you're mad at somebody. You make a boundary for your own peace. You know, put your hand over your heart, another hand over here. Remember that you're responsible for this person and this person only. And when you do that and you start to establish your desires, your needs and your non-negotiables while respecting theirs, that's where relationships build. Okay, so you're not responsible for how they respond to those boundaries. Number 4 is you are not responsible for their perception of you. Their opinion and their judgment of you is not your responsibility to change and to alter. Well, it's changing and to convince. That is not your responsibility, because so many people are committed to only seeing it their way and seeing you through their lens. Like they put on this lens and they're like, okay, that's how I see you. I don't care what you say to me. I do not care what you say to me. This is how I see you. And remember, the more that you try to convince somebody that your side or that your viewpoint, that's demonstrating insecurity. Confidence is like, believe whatever the hell you want to believe. It's fine. Right now, that they're going to, a lot of them will revert to smear campaigns. That'll run out of gas. Do not feed it. You are not responsible for their perception of you, because again, they're only seeing it through their lens, through their experiences, through their limited growth mentality, like all of that. Okay, so you can kind of see how all of these go together, and it's going to get people in a space where they're just going to panic a little bit, and it's not your job to coddle and to make them more comfortable with these things. Number 5 is you are not responsible for explaining your confidence, because that's not confidence, that irritates their insecurity. As mentioned before, your confidence is going to irritate their insecurity. It's going to happen. So your confidence is going to be something where, again, with this priority thing, putting yourself as a priority, you're going to be called self-absorbed. You're going to be called selfish. You're going to be called, conceited, any of those things. Because people who have insecurity, they don't know how to respond to the confidence, because they may want it. So there's a jealousy factor sometimes. They may want it. It may look unfamiliar to them. They may have been told, oh, be humble, and you got to be humble. You can be confident and humble at the same time. You can know that when you walk into a room, you're not better than anybody else in that room, but you deserve to be in the room. You hold your head up high. You're like, I know I deserve to be here. That's confidence. Insecurity is like, I'm better than everybody in this room. And confidence is like, I deserve to be in this room. I don't care what you think. Confidence versus insecurity. So when somebody's insecure, they may very often try to pull you back or try to make you think that something's wrong with you, or that you're doing those things. You're not responsible for those things. And there's a rack more. I could do videos every day, probably to the end of the year, about this, because you're taking on the responsibilities, and then your insecurities. This is how you know that you are still growing, and you should always be growing, by the way, but how you're still trying to get out of that lower level vibration is you can do these things without guilt. Why are you feeling guilty? Because somebody's feelings are hurt because you have boundaries. Somebody's feelings are hurt because you're putting yourself as a priority. Somebody's feelings are hurt because you're not trying to defend yourself. That's their issue, not your responsibility. So focus hard on that and say, where am I thinking I'm responsible for these things? Is it one thing, or is it all 5 of them? It doesn't matter. Don't judge yourself. Don't be like, what's wrong with you? Nothing. it gives you a place to know where to grow, because if you feel responsible for it, those things are demonstrating to areas that you still need to work on. And that's beautiful. So take this as a gift, as a self-awareness gift, and then we can start working on it once we're aware. But be very compassionate to yourself. But at the same token, you are not responsible for their feelings with your growth journey.